Trapped in a dating sim, the world of otome games is tough for mobs. Begins with a man playing a dating simulation game. It was actually his sister who bought the game, but because she was going on vacation, she asked her brother to finish it for her. She was curious about the ending of the game after all. So, the man played the reverse harem genre game for the next few days without eating or sleeping, making him sick and hating everything in it. And he was even angrier after seeing the ending, which he thought was equivalent to trash. After finishing the game, the man left his apartment to buy food at the convenience store. But being so hungry, he fell unconscious while descending the stairs, causing him to die on the spot. And what happened next was a big surprise. The man was reincarnated in another world. That man was reincarnated in the world of the dating simulation game he played before his death. And he was not reborn as the main character but as Leon Foubarfort, a plain side character in that world. For your information, the world in this game is dominated by women. The men had two choices, either to become husbands or paramours to noble ladies. Leon's own father is the husband of a noblewoman named Lady Zora, but his life as the husband of a noblewoman is not really fun. Lady Zora is a selfish and arrogant woman who likes to control other people. 10 years later, when Leon had grown into a teenager, he had prepared to enter Holtfort Academy, a place often used by men to find wives or become paramours. But Lady Zora, Leon's stepmother, seems to have other plans for him. She wanted him to marry the daughter of a royal noble. The noble's daughter was a 50-year-old woman who had been married 7 times before. He rejected the absurd matchmaking plan, but she insists that he must marry the woman of her choice. Realizing that his life would be in danger if he didn't do something, Leon decided to use his knowledge of the game world. He remembered that he had bought an item while playing a game, and now he was planning to find that item, which was a powerful ship called Luxion. And so, Leon said goodbye to his father to begin the quest. Then he goes to a secret place and fights monsters along the way to get XP. But sometime later, a tornado appears and destroys his ship, leaving him stranded on a floating island. He decided to explore the island until he found an old building, which he entered. And after a while of exploring the building, he found 2 human skeletons with their ID cards still attached to their bodies. Leon took one of the cards, thinking it might be useful later, and then continued on his way. Sure enough, after going deeper into the building, he found Luxion, and he could use the ID to open the door. But it turns out that the ship is guarded by a high-tier robot, to which he shows the card he is holding, hoping that the robot can identify him as the owner of the identity card. The robot, however, found no similarities between Leon and the data on the identity card. It perceives him as an intruder who must be exterminated, so it begins to attack him. The robot inflicted some damage on Leon with its attacks, but in the end, he was able to defeat it. After that, he tried to take control of Luxion by scanning his hand. Fortunately, the verification was successful, and even the AI detected his uniqueness. He is a mixture of new human, the type of human who can use magic, and old human, the human who created Luxion. With this, Leon was officially registered as the new owner of Luxion. 3 months later, Leon still hasn't appeared in front of Lady Zora, leading her to assume that he died after trying to escape his match with the noble's daughter. But not long after she told Leon's father about her assumptions, Leon arrived with a big happy smile on his face. Not only did he return home riding Luxion, but he also brought many treasures he had looted from the dungeons. His success upsets Lady Zora because, with his new wealth, he can ignore her demands to marry the daughter of a fantastic noble. With this, her hopes of seizing the noble's daughter's wealth were shattered. A few days later, Leon is seen watering plants on an island, which turns out to be an island that holds the treasure he found. Luxion was also on the island, accompanying him like a loyal assistant. But now, he has transformed into a small ball-shaped drone. Then, after finishing watering the plants, he ordered Luxion and the other robots to build several facilities on the island, including a house for himself and a hot spring bath, because coincidentally, there are crystals that produce hot water. Now that he owns the island and no longer has to worry about money, he intends to continue his simple life there. And because of his achievements in exploring foreign dungeons and discovering new floating islands, he was awarded the title of Baron. But that title meant that Leon's future wife had to come from among the nobility. Because of that, he goes to an academy where most students are girls. And on his first day, Leon immediately saw the characters he had seen while playing the game. The first thing he sees is 5 princes or romantic interests that the heroine must choose as her husband. They are Julius, Jilk, Brad, Greg, and Chris. They were all of the noble descent, and many girls thought they were handsome. Then the second is Angelica, who is the antagonist in the game. She is the fiancée of Julius and the daughter of Duke Redgrave, a high-ranking noble. But suddenly, there was a girl Leon had never seen when he played the game. And strangely, that girl slapped Julius. As far as he remembers, the heroine slapped Julius in the game. but she doesn't look like the heroine. She is short and less beautiful than her. Their names are also different. The girl's name is Marie, while the heroine in the game is named Olivia. During lunch, Leon gathered with two friends, Daniel and Raymond, from an ordinary family, just like him. The three of them got together because he wanted to ask their advice about a girl he could invite to a tea party, but they couldn't help much because they still had trouble finding girls. Unlike Leon, Julius didn't need to think much because many girls asked him to invite them to his tea party, making Leon and his two friends just stare at them blankly. Angelica was also among the girls. With a blush on her cheeks, she asked Julius if he had invited her, but to her surprise, he completely ignored her and invited Marie. As his fiancée, she protested his actions, but he again ignored her. It seemed that he was more interested in the mysterious Marie. Seeing what had happened between them, Leon again felt that something odd was happening because if someone looked at the scene in the game, the one Julius should have invited to the tea party was the heroine. Regardless, he still didn't try to investigate it and chose to enter the class at the end of the break. And coincidentally, the teacher in the class was discussing the tea party. His explanation gave Leon insight into what to do in preparation for the tea party. He was so happy he got new knowledge that he called the teacher master. Thanks to the master's idea, Leon decided to rent a room in the hotel to host his tea party before inviting the girls to come there. But unfortunately, the girls who came did not meet his expectations. And worse, they just left after eating all the dishes he prepared without even talking to him. After returning from the tea party, Leon finally meets the real heroine, Olivia. When she is being bullied by the schoolgirls because she was a commoner who could only enter the academy through a scholarship, and the bullies somehow felt they had to torture students like her. They even forbade her to just attend a tea party hosted by Brad. Feeling sorry for her, Leon invited Olivia to go with him, where he pampered her with the best food and drinks she had ever tasted. Not only that, but he also gave her a piece of advice so she wouldn't be bullied again, which she put into practice right away. Leon suggests she meet Angelica, then ask her to let her studies at the academy and stop the bullying. But surprisingly, Angelica replied that Olivia didn't need to ask her permission if she just wanted to continue her studies because Angelica had no intention of expelling her from the academy from the start. And when it comes to bullying, she never tells her friends to bully anyone, including Olivia. The problem is that her friends are basically insolent girls. But, seeing Olivia suddenly come to her and ask her for help, Angelica couldn't help but feel curious about who told her that idea. And she answered honestly it was Leon who suggested her. Angelica seems to recognize Leon's name. She honors him for his experience and accomplishments as a solo adventurer. The next day, the academy students were getting ready to explore a dungeon. Only Daniel and Raymond had skipped the exploration, and it annoyed Leon that they were his only close friends. So, he was only accompanied by Olivia. Meanwhile, on Angelica's side, she comes back having a conflict with Marie after she confronts her. She realized Marie had ingratiated herself with Julius and didn't like it. But instead of siding with his fiancé, Julius chooses to protect Marie. He even asks her to stop bothering Marie, making her look like an annoying bully. Seeing the conflict, Leon couldn't hold back his curiosity anymore. And so, he asked Olivia to tell him everything she knew about Marie. So, according to Olivia, Marie was the daughter of a poor viscount, and her status caused her to be bullied a lot. Even the yelling she received outweighed hers. But now, she had somehow managed to win the hearts of the 5 princes, to the point that they always accompanied her wherever she went. After they finished gossiping about Marie, Leon and Olivia entered the dungeon, where they managed to collect the crystals according to their teacher's instructions. But they finally found the ant monsters that inhabited the place when they drilled deeper into the dungeon. However, they were no big deal to Leon, who could easily crush them with his sword. It was only when he finished eliminating them all that the real challenge appeared. This time he had to face a monkey monster, which, unfortunately, bit and injured his arm. In the end, Leon defeated the monster, although shortly after, the ant monsters reappeared in more numbers than before. Just as he was about to rise to fight them, the 5 princes came with poses and facial expressions as if they were K-pop singers before asking him to hand the monsters over to them. And then, they sprang into action, defeating the rest of the monsters while accompanied by intense background music. Julius' arm was injured in the fight, but that wasn't a problem since he had Marie, who could heal the wound with magic. And it turns out Marie is not the only one with healing magic. Olivia also mastered it, and she used it to heal Leon's arm. In fact, even though she was only good at using magic, that allowed her to get a scholarship at the academy. Leon thanked Olivia for healing his arm, but a moment later, his eyes turned to Marie walking away while holding Julius' arm. He felt that everything that had happened recently was getting more strange. The events that he now witnessed were very different from the storyline in the game, and that made him even more curious about Marie, who seemed to have replaced Olivia as the heroine. As the day passed, thick black smoke rose from the fireplace on campus. and in the fireplace was Marie's bag and books, which were now on fire. Julius then arrested the perpetrators who burned Marie's bags and books, and he summoned Angelica to his presence. Because based on the information from the perpetrators, it was her who ordered them to burn Marie's things. But Angelica wasn't that bad. She knew nothing about the burning of any bags or books, much less telling people to do it. But no matter how she tried to explain it to Julius, he wouldn't listen. He even asked her to stay away from him and Marie, much to Angelica's dismay. Meanwhile, Leon was with Olivia in the library discussing Marie. Not long after, they heard suspicious noises coming from the other side of the library. Curious, they both checked the sound source and found Marie secretly kissing Brad. It turned out that Marie was just like Leon. In her inner monologue, she says she is not a person from this world, but she didn't regret having reincarnated into this world. In fact, she liked it very much, because here she could be close to noble men. Shortly after Marie parted from Brad at the library, Julius and Jill came to see her and offered her a personal butler who would help with her activities. She turned it down since she didn't have the money to pay for a butler. But they calmed her down and told her that they were the ones who would pay the personal butler for her. She was happy to hear that. She secretly laughed inwardly, thinking how lucky she would be to have a demi-human slave. On the other hand, Leon begins to order Luxian to investigate Angelica and Marie as he suspects that Marie is a reincarnation just like him. Then after Luxian finished gathering information, he attended the dance party at the academy with Daniel and Raymond, hoping they would find their soulmate at the event. But they didn't manage to get a dance partner on the show because the girls looked down on them. They even ordered their servants to beat up Leon and his two friends. After the girls left Leon, Raymond, and Daniel sprawled on the floor, Olivia came to inform him that, yet again, Angelica had an argument with Marie. This time she tried to expose Marie's infidelity to Julius, but to her surprise, he already knew about it. He knew Marie had made the other 4 princes fall in love with her, but he is sure that he is the one who loves her the most. The girls in the ballroom cheered excitedly at Julius' words that sounded romantic to their ears. Only Angelica responded differently. She gritted her teeth furiously before challenging Marie to a duel. But instead of Marie answering the challenge, the 5 princes took turns volunteering to be her fighter in battle. On the other hand, no one is willing to represent Angelica. Not even her friends come forward to defend her. They were all too reluctant to fight for the princes. Seeing this incident, Leon was reminded of the story part of the dating simulation game. This duel did take place in the game's story, although the fight involved Angelica and Olivia. But regardless of whether Angelica wins the duel or not, she will end up exiled to a remote village, where she will later marry a bad-tempered village chief and live the rest of her life in misery. Leon himself didn't really want to act like a hero, but in a situation like this, he couldn't stand still watching Angelica being ganged up by the 5 princes, and most of all, he hated them for being able to win the hearts of all the girls in the academy. And so, he offered to be Angelica's fighter before challenging Marie and the 5 princes to a bet. If Leon won, Marie would have to stay away from Julius. Marie accepted the challenge on the condition that if Leon lost, Angelica had to stop bullying students of lower status than her. It's a very noble request, but he knows she is only imitating the dialogue the heroine speaks in the game, indicating that she is indeed a reincarnation like himself. Leon threw Angelica's glove at Julius, indicating they could no longer withdraw from this match. The match will occur later in the Academy's Coliseum, where the participants will wear their own armor. Not long after, Marie is seen cursing in her room, annoyed at Leon, who dared to interfere in her life even though he was only a side character. Meanwhile, Leon finds his room filled with scribbles made by the prince's minions. And to his surprise, the video footage from Luxian showed that they also forced Daniel and Raymond to join in on the wall scribbling. But Leon had no time for this. He wanted to know what the odds of his victory against Julius were. And Luxian, equipped with many features, can show him about it. It turned out that many students had bet on the match, and 99% of them had bet on Julius' victory. So that means there is only about 1% who bet on Leon to win, and that includes himself. Meanwhile, after hearing of the vandalism in Leon's room, Angelica calls Leon and asks him to withdraw from the match. She didn't want him to suffer worse consequences just because of her. But he refused to withdraw from the match because he didn't want to be a coward. The next day, the students had packed the Coliseum to watch the duel. Leon entered the arena wearing the costume Luxian had created for him. Meanwhile, the princes wore their modern armor in the opposite corner. That made the audience scoff at Leon, who they judged had no intention of fighting. Angelica even thought that he had forgotten to bring his armor. But the jeers from the crowd didn't bother Leon much, especially after he found out that Raymond and Daniel were betting on his win. And besides, he wasn't wearing his armor yet. That's why he summoned his armor, Arrogance, also made by Luxian. However, the audience was even more excited to ridicule Leon. They called his armor ancient, junk, ugly, and inferior to the armor of the princes. Indeed, slim armor is the trend since such armor is considered more efficient in fighting, unlike arrogance. Even so, Leon remained relaxed even though the audience insulted him in such a way. Moments later, the first battle begins, pitting Leon against Brad. But the audience once again burst into laughter after Leon pulled out his weapon, a shovel. At this point, Brad thought he would win easily, so he attacked Leon with his torpedo blade. But who would have thought Leon's large armor could dodge his attacks perfectly? Not only that, but Leon also managed to finish the fight with a simple counterattack, leaving the audience speechless. There was only one person who gave a standing ovation for his victory. It was the Tea Party teacher. In the second fight against Greg, Leon managed to knock out the armor controlled by his opponent. He even mutilated the armor and forced Greg to come out. But Greg still didn't want to give up. He picked up a piece of iron and then used it to pound on Arrogance's leg, making him look like an ant trying to beat an elephant by biting its leg. Anyone who saw him would agree that he looked so pathetic. The referee also thought the same until he ended the fight and declared Leon the winner. In the third battle, Leon must fight Chris, the young swordsman, but he already has a way of dealing with it. As Chris dashed towards him with his sword ready to slash, he took a few steps back and took out several drones to attack Chris. Feeling troubled by the drone attacks, Chris then called the tactics used by Leon as cheating. If Leon dared challenge him, he should have clashed swords with him. Leon accepted the challenge without a second thought. But just as the sword fight had started, Chris' sword had already shattered just because Leon gripped it tightly. With that, there was nothing he could do but kneel down to admit defeat. He realized he couldn't beat anyone without his sword. Leon's opponent in the fourth battle is Jilk, but the referee gave him a break before restarting the fight. But Jilk used this time off to devise a strategy for Leon to lose. He then ordered Leon's sister, Jenna, to plant explosives on Arrogance's back, hoping it would damage him. She didn't like how his brother humiliated their family by making enemies of the upper-class nobles. That's why she agreed to help with Jilk's plan. But the plan was discovered by Luxan, who then told Leon what Jenna did to Arrogance. He is not stupid. He had already expected that his opponents would use underhanded means, and he had known that explosions alone would not destroy Arrogance. When the fight resumed, Jilk threw a bomb at Arrogance before flying into the air, where he bombarded his opponent with gunfire. But all those attacks had no effect on Arrogance, forcing him to magically activate the bomb Jenna had set. But to his surprise, Arrogance still stood firm. Feeling that he had enough playing time, Leon flew Arrogance into the air and attacked Jilk, sending him crashing to the ground. The fourth duel was finally won by Leon easily, and it made Marie furious. She shows her true nature, which is very different from most heroine dating simulation games. With Jilk lost, Julius must enter the arena to fight Leon in the final duel. But before they fight, he asks Julius about Olivia to ensure that she is the heroine in this world. Julius admitted that he had heard of her but didn't really know her. He doesn't care about that because he has never even seen her. He only knows that Olivia is a diligent and hardworking scholarship recipient. Julius' words surprised Leon because, as he recalled, Olivia and Julius met at the beginning of the game's story. So how come Julius still doesn't know her until now? But Leon didn't have time to think about that because now he had to face off against Julius, who launched a barrage of attacks with all his might. And what's even more amazing is that he attacks while explaining how much he loves Marie and how he must win this duel no matter what to get her love. According to Julius, Marie was a sincere girl who could see him as an ordinary human. She was different from Angelica, who always considered him a prince. And he hated it because he didn't want to be a prince. He never asked to be born into a high-ranking noble family. After a while, Leon finally tired of hearing his ramblings. So, he shattered Julius' armor and threw him to the ground. In the end, Leon emerged victorious from his duel against the 5 princes. After his defeat to Leon, Julius lost his title as the crown prince of the Halford Kingdom, and because of that, he had to break off his engagement with Angelica. But it didn't matter to him because he preferred Marie over her. Julius' 4 friends suffer the same fate as him, in which they each lose their title. Now the 5 of them were just ordinary people without a job, and it made Marie furious that her dream of enjoying an easy life in this world was shattered. Even so, they were happy about their new life, and to support Marie, they decided to make money by conquering dungeons. That way, they can all practice beating Leon someday. Soon after, Leon met Angelica's father to make a deal since he had helped her dispute with Marie. He asks Angelica's father to be released from execution for resisting the princes and for the Redgraves to protect him and his family from Julia's family. In exchange for all that, Leon was willing to give up his noble title and leave the academy. He didn't need the title because from the start, he really wanted to live in peace on his private island. Angelica's father is willing to fulfill Leon's request as long as he wants to take Angelica on vacation to his private island, because she's in a bad mood right now and her father is worried about her. So, He hopes to lift up her mood by taking a vacation to a quiet place. With that, Leon, Angelica, and Olivia set off for his private island, where their relationship grew closer after spending a lot of time together. But one day, a messenger from the king came to him with a message that King and Queen Halfort, Julius' parents, intended to promote him to the 6th rank of nobility or knights as a thank you for his services in providing valuable life lessons for Julius. Leon did not dare to disobey the king's orders, and he departed for the king's palace to receive the title directly from the king and queen. Thanks to his new title, he was not expelled from the academy, much to his annoyance. Luckily, he had friends like Angelica and Olivia, who could relieve his annoyance while he was at the academy. Leon was amazed when he saw them wearing maid costumes, but at the same time, he also realized that he, the side character, couldn't have a romantic relationship with them. He wants life in this world to run according to the story in the game, and for that, Olivia must grow to be a true heroine. After a while, the school festival is getting closer. Leon and his friends are planning to open a cafe at the festival, and they are currently busy preparing for it. Leon, Raymond, and Daniel arranged the room to be used as a cafe, while Olivia and Angelica prepared themselves to serve as maids. Everything seems to be going well until Raymond and Daniel discover that Marie and the 5 princes will open a cafe next to their room. Leon and the others then went outside to check, and sure enough, the female students were surrounding Julius, standing in the front of the room next to them. Their pride dropped as soon as they saw the sight. They realized they would not be able to match the charm of the 5 princes, let alone that their cafe interior even loses to the luxurious interior of their competitor's cafe. Marie and the 5 princes wanted to avenge their defeat in the previous duel, and she said directly in front of Leon that they would win this time. Their cafe will sell better than his. Marie's words were confirmed when the festival started. Olivia, who is in charge of promoting the cafe, has difficulty attracting customers. Instead of customers, she attracted bullies who mocked her as Angelica's dog. Indeed, the students were starting to realize their closeness, and they didn't like if a commoner like Olivia could get close to a high-class noble like Angelica. But in the end, Olivia managed to get the attention of a customer, Carla Fu Wang. Although, she actually had other intentions. She wanted Olivia to introduce her to Leon. Then, on the second day of the festival, when Leon and the others were preparing their cafe, the committee suddenly called Angelica to meet them. It was because the Queen of Halfort, Mylene, had come to the festival, and she wanted Angelica to be her guide around the festival before taking her to meet Leon. Mylene wanted to rebuke him for his way of dueling and personally thank him for getting Julius out of Marie's manipulation, even though his efforts were still unsuccessful. Meanwhile, Leon and Olivia had their first customers of the day, Stephanie and her gang. They had come to the cafe not to enjoy the meal but to humiliate and insult Leon, who had made her lose a bet in the duel. She even went so far as to throw the teacup at him and stomp on his head. Coincidentally, at this time, Mylene and Angelica had finished touring the festival, and they headed for Leon's cafe. But how surprised they were when they saw the scene inside the cafe. As if driven by reflex, Angelica immediately grabbed Stephanie's uniform by the collar and tried to shoo her away. But she wasn't afraid of Angelica since her family had a fairly high status. Not only that, she insulted Angelica. She also berated Olivia, calling her Angelica's pet. Stephanie said Angelica only used Olivia because there were no more noble students who wanted to be friends with her. At this point, Leon was fed up with Stephanie's annoying behavior. He tries to stop her, but again, she uses her family's status to threaten him and the others. She even told her servant to slap Leon to teach him a lesson. Realizing things would get worse if she didn't interfere, Mylene then asked Stephanie to stop what she was doing and leave the cafe. But she doesn't know that Mylene is the queen, so she responds to her orders contemptuously, calling her a cranky old hag. As soon as he heard Stephanie insulting the queen, Leon felt he had an excuse to beat up those impudent customers. Without further ado, he hit Stephanie's servants, sending them flying against the wall, before telling her that the woman she calls the old hag is Queen Mylene. Stephanie's face instantly turned pale when she heard that, while Mylene tried to calm Leon down. But he refused to stop. The law states that insults to the queen must be punished, therefore, Stephanie must die. In the end, Angelica had to summon the only person who could calm Leon down. Who else but his master, Professor Lucas. After Leon regained his serenity, Mylene was finally able to state the purpose of her coming to see him. But he couldn't focus on listening to her words. He was so enamored with Mylene's beauty that he half-jokingly tried to propose to her. The sudden proposal made Angelica and Olivia panic, but unexpectedly it flattered Mylene. Naturally, she had never received such gentle treatment from a man. But apparently, Julius was secretly listening when Leon seduced her mother. He immediately entered the cafe, beat Leon, and brought Mylene to his cafe. Incidentally, one of the reasons Mylene came to the festival was because she wanted to meet Marie. the girl who had manipulated Julius and made him lose his title as crown prince. But Julius realized her mother would scold Marie, so he hid her by pretending not to know where she was now. At the same time, Carla finally goes to Leon to ask for his help in saving her family from destruction. Leon couldn't refuse her request, and it surprised Lakshan. So, when they were alone, Lakshan immediately asked why he had to help her, the girl he barely knew. Here, Leon says that he would feel bad for Olivia if he refused Carla's request because Olivia was the one who introduced her to him. After all, the academy was going on holiday after the festival, and he had plenty of free time to help Carla, though he still didn't really know her problem. But when Leon returns to the cafe, he finds Olivia and Angelica looking awkward with each other when they work at the cafe. Apparently, Stephanie's words saying that Olivia was just Angelica's pet kept ringing in her mind, and she felt that what Stephanie said was true. Why would Angelica want to be friends with her, who came from the commoners? It seemed impossible. Leon, Daniel, and Raymond realized the cause of the strained relationship between Olivia and Angelica. But there wasn't much they could do other than close the cafe and take a break. Their cafe is not selling well, so why keep it open? After all, Leon had thought of another way to gain money, participating in the flying bike race bet. Yes, the flying bike race is the highlight of the festival, where Angelica is one of the organizers. According to her, the third grader Dan Alger always wins the race, but the mainstay of the first graders is none other than Jilk. On the day of the race, when the students are seen cheering on their champions, Leon sits alone in front of a pile of money. He managed to win big from the bet thanks to the help of Lakshan's prediction programming. But unfortunately, one of the participants that Leon placed a bet on, Jilk, suffered an injury in the preliminary round even though he managed to win it. His injury ended up being unable to continue in the next round, leaving Marie sad because it meant she wouldn't be able to get the prize from Jilk. Jilk's condition confused the organizers because they had to find a replacement for him. And it was at this time that a girl suddenly came into the treatment room accompanied by 3 slaves and one of her followers. The girl was not his replacement but rather the one responsible for his injury. She is Clarice, his ex-fiancée. As for why she ordered the other racers to injure him, it was because he had dumped her in the past. After Clarice left the room, Angelica started talking about a potential replacement for Jilk. And this was when Marie suddenly suggested appointing Leon with the excuse that they had no time left to search. If they don't immediately find a replacement for Jilk from the first graders, Angelica, as the competition committee, will get into trouble. After thinking for a while, Leon finally agreed to replace Jilk, as he owed Angelica's father. Instead, he asked Jilk to pay him after the race was over. But the race was tough for Leon, as he was attacked by many competitors who went bankrupt after losing bets in his duel against the 5 princes. The race commentators alone even supported them in attacking him. While Leon was struggling to win the race, Stephanie came to Olivia and Angelica, who watched the race. She was still angry with them over the incident with Queen Mylene, and now she was taking her anger out by bad-mouthing Angelica in front of Olivia. She revealed that Angelica was just like herself in the past, often insulting and mistreating ordinary people. This time Stephanie's provocation was effective. Olivia doubted Angelica again, and before she could explain anything, Olivia left her. As a result, an angry Angelica immediately attacked Stephanie, forcing those around them to hold her back. Meanwhile, Leon managed to get past the other participants in the racing arena with Lakshan's help. Ultimately, he managed to become the first place, making the students hate him even more. With his victory, Leon collects Jilk's promise to pay him. Surprisingly, he didn't ask for money from Jilk. Instead, he asked Jilk to apologize to Clarice for his behavior toward her. So, accompanied by Leon, Jilk went to his ex-fiancée to apologize, and Clarice responded to his apology by giving him what he deserved, a slap in the face. After all her dealings with Jilk were over, Clarice thanked Leon, who she didn't expect to have a kind heart. Not only that, but she also told him about what happened to Olivia and Angelica. Without wasting time, he looked for Olivia and asked her to give Angelica one more chance. His attempt was successful. He managed to convince her to try to make up with Angelica. But at night, when Olivia was alone in her room thinking about Leon's advice, Carla knocked on her door. She wants Olivia to come with Leon to help her during the holidays, and Olivia couldn't refuse the request because it turned out that Carla had been plotting with Stephanie, the girl she was afraid of. The next day, Leon prepares to go to fulfill Carla's request, who apparently wants him to stop the sky pirates who invaded her family's land. But he already knew about the pirate invasion from the game he played. In the game, the pirate invasion is nothing more than a plot devised by Carla and Stephanie to trap Olivia, where they purposely send her into battle to destroy her. But that part of the story wasn't so bad because it became a turning point for Olivia to develop as a character. Leon, however, decided to actively participate in fighting the pirates and, at the same time, helping Olivia so she could develop faster. He planned to collect 3 items useful in awakening her power as a saint. The 3 items were the sacred bracelet hidden in the capital's dungeon, the holy necklace, which happened to be in possession of a pirate, and the sacred scepter stored in the royal temple. With Olivia's current condition and abilities, she couldn't possibly get those 3 items. Therefore, Leon decided to get them to save time. Hearing his plan, Luxon couldn't help but think that Olivia might fall in love with Leon, but he didn't pay much attention to it, saying it couldn't happen because he was just a mob. After preparing the ship, Leon met Carla and Olivia, who looked gloomy. But it turns out that Carla also invites Greg and Brad, Stephanie's ex-fiancé, to join their mission. Meanwhile, at the academy, Angelica intends to mend her relationship with Olivia. With that intention, she goes to Olivia's room. But how shocked she was when she found her room so messy. And more importantly, she couldn't find Olivia there. But soon after, Angelica found out where Olivia had gone. Stephanie told her about Olivia's participation in the pirate eradication mission. The mission itself went smoothly. Using his arrogance, Leon manages to defeat the pirates and captures many of them, earning Greg's respect. Greg realized that war was very different from dueling in the arena, and Leon could easily defeat the pirates. How could he not respect Leon after seeing his actions? Their victory over the pirates, however, made Carla nervous. Her plan had failed miserably. The situation worsens for her after Leon takes the pirates to the Wayne family estate and reports to her father about her crime. She couldn't help but confess to her father about how Stephanie had planned to destroy Olivia by cooperating with the Sky Pirates. Part of Stephanie's plan came true, indeed, because now Olivia really believed that Angelica saw her as a pet. If Angelica looked at her like that, then what about Leon? All this time, he was so kind to her. Surely, he wants something from her, right? That's what Olivia had in mind. When Leon met Olivia later that night, she looked so depressed. She told him what was on her mind, making him feel bad for her. But now, there was nothing he could do to change her negative thoughts. But Leon kept thinking about Olivia's words to him, and he shared his anxiety with Luxon, who thought he had usurped her status as the main character despite his intention to help her. By doing everything for her, Leon has unknowingly made her unable to be independent. She never did anything by herself, so she never grew stronger and became more confident. But Leon rejected Luxon's theory. He was even angry at the accusations and beat Luxon. While he was still shrouded in anxiety, Brad showed up to practice swordsmanship. He wondered why Brad had to practice swordsmanship instead of magic, and he didn't expect the answer because Brad was the weakest of the 5 princes. So, like it or not, Brad must train his body and strength to impress Marie and beat his 4 competitors. Seeing that Leon had only been listening all this time, Brad invited him to practice sparring. The duel was short, and Leon won it. But more importantly, the duel can make him realize that the 5 princes have their own problems, and so did Olivia. Luxon is right. All this time, Leon had been protecting Olivia too much without realizing it hurt her. The next day, the rest of the pirates came to attack Leon's ship while he, Brad, and Greg were having breakfast. But this time, they didn't want to let him act alone. They asked Leon to include them in the war. Seeing their determination, he was forced to relent. It turns out that not only them who want to fight but Olivia also want to help. After a whole night of thinking, she regretted what she said to Leon yesterday, and now she was worried about him after seeing the pirate ship approaching. So, she came out of her room, hoping to help him somehow. But unfortunately, before Olivia could do anything, she met the pirate captain who was wearing armor. The captain might have finished her off if it weren't for Brad and Greg rushing to help her. On the other hand, Leon did not realize that Olivia was in danger. He only found out about it after Luxon told him. But then, he saw how Greg and Brad worked for helping to protect her, and it made him realize his original role as a side character. This is how the story should go, he thought. The princes help Olivia without having to depend on Leon, but they were no match for the pirate captain, and he knew he had to intervene in their fight. So, Leon dashed towards them and defeated the captain before snatching the holy necklace from him. After the pirate is destroyed, Olivia heals Brad with magic, reminding him of Marie, who also has magical healing abilities. Seeing them together, Leon chose to ignore her, hoping she could become as close to the 5 princes as she should be and forget about him. But his decision made her sad. She didn't understand why Leon had suddenly become distant from her. Inside the pirate ship, Leon and Luxon find evidence linking the pirates to Stephanie, who was later captured by the royal family. And not long after, the ship from Redgrave came to take the prisoners. But when Angelica's father is about to reward them for their services in defeating the pirates, Leon lets Greg and Brad take the credit to have their family put them back into heirs. A few days later, Angelica finally discovered how Leon hurt Olivia's feelings and made her cry. So, the first thing she did when reunited with him was slapped him. Unbeknownst to her, the slap made Leon more determined to stay away from her and Olivia. But his desire to become a plain commoner had to be delayed again after Greg and Brad met the Queen and asked her to promote Leon to lower 5th rank nobility. Clarice's father also supported the promotion and thanked Leon for making Jilk apologize to her. Clarice thanked him by giving him a flying motorbike, which was also a gift for his victory in the race. But day by day, Leon misses Olivia and Angelica. Fortunately, soon the students will go on a school trip to the southern floating island. He remembered that event when he played the dating simulation game back then. It is a very useful event for the heroine to increase the level or status of her relationship with his love interests. In addition, the heroine can get special items at the school trip destination. So, a few days later, the students went on a school trip by ship. But in this supposedly fun journey, there are still 2 students who do stupid things. The 2 of them are actually Angelica's friends, but as her prestige wears off thanks to her engagement with Julius being annulled, the 2 girls get tired of being friends with her. And so, they decided to do something about this trip by throwing flares overboard. They do not know that their actions will have a bad impact later. Some time passed, and the students finally arrived at their destination. And accidentally, Leon, Angelica, and Olivia met at a temple, which turned out to be a matchmaking temple. So, if they make offerings while asking for something there, their wishes are said to be granted. But, of course, their request had to do with matchmaking. Hearing that, Leon immediately offered a wad of money and asked the gods to give him a mate. After they prayed, the temple guard gave each of them souvenirs in the form of amulets, none other than the items Leon was looking for. Leon gets a fortune and war amulet that can add buffs when he fights with a sword. Olivia gets the white good luck or good luck amulet which symbolizes sacred magic, while Angelica gets the red elemental blessing or fire magic amulet. The next day, while Leon was daydreaming on the ship, the royal troops of Phanos led by Princess Gertrude came to attack the ship. The Phanos kingdom itself used to be a territory in the Hallfort kingdom owned by Duke, until one day, they declared their independence from Hallfort for some reason. Leon knew that Phanos would attack Hallfort, but it should have happened at the end of the game when Olivia was in 3rd grade. He still couldn't understand why they were attacking now and why they were attacking the ship carrying the academy students. During his confusion, Gertrude reveals herself through a hologram on the ship, in which she declares war on the Hallfort kingdom. She then gave the academy students an hour to think about 2 options: surrender to the Phanos army or die by them. After that, one of Phanos' generals, Garrett, crossed to the academy ship with his soldiers to take the students hostage. But Angelica realized he would be more interested in holding the upper-class nobles hostage. Therefore, she volunteered to be a hostage as long as he released the other students. Leon and Olivia tried to stop Angelica, but 2 students restrained him, making him unable to stop her. On the other hand, Garrett doesn't like seeing kids acting like heroes. That's why he ordered the students to punish Leon by beating him. After becoming a hostage, Angelica is then brought in front of Gertrude. When she offered to be a hostage, there were only 2 students who tried to stop her, while the other students just stood there like cowards. The 2 rebellious students referred to by Gertrude, Leon and Olivia, are now locked behind bars. But a moment later, Chris came to see them, asking Leon to help him save the students. He suggested that Leon try to buy time while the students fled. At first, Leon rejected Chris' ideas, arguing that the students weren't worth saving because, after all, they had abandoned Angelica. But in the end, he agreed to help as long as the students fought back with them. It was the only way for the students to survive. Chris agreed to Leon's proposal, and with that, he urged the students to fight. But Gertrude was right. The students were cowards. They refused to fight even though the one asking them was Chris, the person they used to admire. They even berated him, mentioning that his title had been revoked. And so, Leon decided to shoot a gun into the air to silence the noisy students. Then, affirming his upper-level peerage, which was even higher than the teachers in the academy, he ordered them all to fight. It is better to fight to the death than to be killed like a coward. However, they all still refused, forcing Leon to use other tactics to influence them. He humiliated them, calling them false nobles. His remarks naturally offended many students, one of whom was Deirdre Roseblade, a high-ranking noble whose family title lower than Angelica's. Deirdre mentioned all the achievements of her esteemed family, and thus Leon had to retract his impudent remarks. She was a true aristocrat, as evidenced by her family's long, glorious history. But in the end, Deirdre had to endure the embarrassment after Leon mentioned that her family's achievements belonged to her ancestors. Meanwhile, she was just a coward who could only humiliate her ancestors and tarnish their reputation. And the other students were just like her because they all acted like cowards. Finally, the students agreed to fight with Leon and Chris despite embarrassment and anger. Deirdre was even attracted by Leon's impertinence and rudeness. Yes, she had a crush on him or lusted for him. After all that, They then investigated why the Phanos army could detect their ship, and they managed to find the cause, none other than the flares the two girls threw yesterday. Therefore, without listening to their excuses again, the students put the two girls behind bars. Then, after the two girls were dealt with, Leon began to prepare to save Angelica while Olivia remained on the ship. His departure from the ship was noticed by Gertrude, who immediately played her magic flute to control the monsters. With this, the war finally began. The monsters tried to attack Leon, forcing him to avoid them as he flew towards the Gertrude ship. While on the Academy ship, the students divided up the tasks. Chris and some students would fight head on the monsters swarming around the ship, while Olivia and the rest would protect the ship with their magic. But when they were caught off guard, the enemy fleet took the opportunity to attack with their launchers, putting the students' positions at risk as they couldn't possibly withstand the attack. Fortunately, Olivia's saint powers, which had been dormant all this time, were awakened at this critical time thanks to the support of the White Luck Amulet. Then with her new power, she creates a barrier that protects the entire ship, saving all students from enemy attacks. Olivia's awakening of power made Leon relieved. He can freely infiltrate enemy ships without having to worry about his friends. There, he saves Angelica, plucks Garrett's mustache in revenge for torturing him, and then snatches Gertrude's magic flute. Not only that, but he also took Gertrude to the Academy ship as a prisoner. But of course, Gertrude wouldn't allow herself to be taken prisoner like that. She was even willing to give up control of the monsters so they could take down the Academy ship. And right now, Olivia and the students had almost exhausted their strength to fight the monsters, forcing Leon and Angelica to take their place in the fight. The talismans he had obtained at the temple proved to be very useful. With her abilities now enhanced by the Red Element Blessing Talisman, Angelica could cast powerful fire magic to protect the ship from the monsters. But then, Olivia finally collapses due to exhaustion, making Angelica have to leave her position to help her. And when she saw Angelica, Olivia felt it was time to mend their relationship. After all, there was a chance that they wouldn't survive all this. So, she tells her the truth, revealing that she wants to be her friend. She was trying her best because she wanted Angelica to acknowledge her. Angelica was touched by Olivia's words. She tries to calm her down, saying that she's always believed that Olivia is much stronger than she thought, and most importantly, she's always thought of them as friends. With this, they finally reconciled. However, this supposedly beautiful moment was interrupted by an enemy attack, shaking the ship to the point that Angelica was thrown and almost fell. Olivia quickly helped her, but as a result, it was Olivia who ended up falling off the ship. Fortunately, Leon realized this, and so he rushed to catch her. Here, Olivia decided not to hold back her feelings anymore. She scolded Leon for staying away from her even though she didn't know what her fault was. Even so, she still loves him. And, with teary eyes, she told him that straight away. But Leon felt this was not the right time to answer her feelings, and so, he brought Olivia to safety, and at the same time, his ship and partner finally arrived with arrogance. He then mounted it while swearing to destroy the Phanos army so they would never dare to attack again. On the other hand, the still furious Garrett decided to release Phanos' strongest hero, Sir Vandal the Black Knight, forcing Leon to fight him. Their intense fight made Leon think he had to use tactics to beat him. Therefore, he allowed the Black Knight to stab his weapon in arrogance so he could restrain him. Having succeeded, Leon then exited arrogance and pointed a gun at Vandal, threatening to shoot him if he didn't give up. Phanos' invasion failed after Luxian wiped out the remaining monsters, forcing Garrett and Vandal to retreat in shame. After the battle was over and won by the Academy students, they returned to Halford with the prisoners. But Leon again refuses to be seen as a hero in the war, forcing Chris to take credit for the victory so he can be reinstated as heir to his family. After all, his contribution to the war against Phanos was quite large. After the situation returned to peace, Leon finally introduced Luxian to Angelica and Olivia. But the five princes still couldn't forget their defeat to him. Then, they challenged him to a rematch against them, which he accepted. Needless to say, Leon managed to win the duel, but in the process, he realized one thing: the five princes didn't deserve Olivia. They were too stupid to be her husband. Hence, Leon decided to allow them to continue pursuing Marie. As for Marie, it turns out that she managed to get the sacred bracelet from the dungeon, and she plans to get the remaining 2 items to replace Olivia as heroine. Then, a few days later, Leon was seen dressed formally. His service in capturing Princess Gertrude made all the nobles feel he deserved to be promoted as a viscount. Leon was annoyed at being constantly promoted, but he accepted the promotion. At the end of the anime, Leon is reunited with Olivia and Angelica after the promotion ceremony is over. He is determined to always be by their side, even though he was just a side character. He still hasn't answered Olivia's love confession, but she assures him that she'll wait until he's ready to give her the answer. With this, Leon's adventure in the dating simulation game world ends. At least for now, because clearly, many things still need to be continued. You can read the light novel or manga if you are interested in knowing it. The anime ends. The moral we can get this time is to grow and develop. A person must be able to solve their own problems. So, if you have kids, don't overprotect them.